Over £1 million a year is spent, or wasted depending on your personal view, on diversity roles within West Yorkshire Police alone. I can only imagine how much money is spent countrywide on such roles in the vast number of police forces and other services we have around the country. And apparently Lego can also be anti-LGBT, which I will explain the underpinning reasoning for this in this video. Not to say that I agree with it, and you might not agree with it either. That's entirely down to you, but I will explore that in this video. That was according to the Science Museum. As I said, a bit more about that in a minute. But first of all, if you're new to me, I'm Daniel Smith, a barrister of England and Wales. If you do like a brutally honest and objective analysis of what's going on, however bizarre it might seem, please do subscribe to the channel. I depend on you. And thank you all for your lovely comments with my video with Rupert Lowe MP yesterday. If you didn't check that out yet, I will link that below. It's a very interesting chat we had. I'm grateful to you all for watching it. So let's talk about today's content. Now, I did have a chat with Rupert about such diversity roles yesterday, and that sort of pointed me in the direction of looking for this, and someone has indeed discovered a lot of information from a Freedom of Information request, which is response is posted here. Somebody sent an FOI to West Yorkshire Police to ask the following question. How many equality and diversity posts, uniformed and non-uniformed, are employed in West Yorkshire Police? What is the cost of such posts and any necessary direct admin support? And it's quite an overwhelming number, which I've done the maths for you. It adds up to over £1 million a year, and that is just at West Yorkshire Police alone. 3 roles for diversity, equality and inclusion officers at £45,924 per person. And as we go through these, you might start to think, what is the difference and what are they doing? And there's an even deeper reason for that question, which I'll come back to. The head of diversity is on £91,500 a year. And then diversity, equality and inclusion managers, £57,000 a year. Then the officers, as I said, at 45,000. Add 2 admin assistants and positive action, whatever that's supposed to be, and I'll come back to that in a minute, on almost £31,000 a year. So the 2 admin assistants themselves are on almost £31,000 a year. Now, I'll explain in a minute why I think they, or even one of them, could manage the whole of this initiative all by themselves. But as I say, I'll come back to that in just a minute. Comms and marketing lead, £53,000 a year. Comms and marketing officer, £42,000 a year. A positive action, I don't know what the T's for, T/inspector, uniformed officer of £94,000 a year. A positive action sergeant, uniformed, £79,000 a year. Positive action, you get the idea. A huge amount of money spent on these roles. And I suggest that all of the law is already in place with the Equality Act 2010 and every way that it relates to employers, employment law and so on and so forth, and the provisions within the Equality Act that allow employers to take positive action and take those steps to increase their diversity within their staff, which I'm all for. I support that. I support them trying to have an inclusive environment, but not to the extent that it would mean somebody less suitable or less qualified, less able is in a role just because of one reason or another for diversity and inclusion and so on. I think actually it should really be the best person for the job, and the person who is most suitable, most qualified, most able should be in that role. And if they can do that by being open and include anybody that wants to apply for that, then that is obviously great. But it comes down to really the meritocracy in a scenario like this. It really ought to be the person who is most suitable and qualified for the position. Now, why do I say that just a couple of these admin assistants, officers, whatever, whomever could do this? Well, the law is already there. As an employer, West Yorkshire Police can be inclusive within the confines of the law, and obviously taking positive steps whenever and wherever they can to make sure that it is an inclusive environment. It does not have to be an exclusive environment just because they don't have all of these roles. These roles didn't exist many years ago, and that's not to say that every establishment was operating properly those years ago either, but one doesn't follow the other. It is not the case that everything is better now because of these roles, in my personal view. Despite spending over £1 million on it, we could have an inclusive environment that complies with the law and doesn't discriminate against anybody without all of these roles. I personally think this is a waste of money. Personal opinion alert. You can disagree with me if you wish. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think, whether you think these roles are absolutely essential or whether you think we can do without them. But the point is this: if this is over £1 million worth of collective salaries here, then there are going to be multiples, many multiples of this amount of money spent on police forces around the country, and I presume NHS trusts across the country, etc. The questions go on. How many of these posts are filled with by ethnic minority applicants? And the response was 6 are filled by individuals from an ethnic minority group. I don't really think that's at all relevant for the reasons that I've said. If someone is the most suitable for the role, then they should be in that role. And actually, 6 from an ethnic minority group out of all of those roles, I haven't added them up, but there's a number of roles there. 6 is probably on a higher percentage representation across those roles. It is possibly because they might be more suited to the role if they've specialised in that area. Who knows? But again, it really ought to be down to the best person for the job, is the way that I would see it. After all, if you are training to be a lawyer, for example, chambers and law firms, we have all sorts of ways of removing even names and gender and backgrounds and all sorts of stuff. I think many places even remove, where you went to university and all those kind of things. We remove all of that because ultimately it comes down to, first sift as such. What are your qualifications and experience, etc. on paper, and then obviously at some point it comes down to an interview and what are you like as a person. But it really should be coming down to the best person for the job. So I think that may not be representative of much, the number of people in the roles there. Next question: what is the number and cost of external training bodies and courses for equality and diversity training? So they say the final payment is yet to be finalised. However, it's currently £361,000 on training and quality and courses and things like that. Now, that leads us on to, and that's a lot of money. And that brings us neatly onto this next story, which is quite difficult to believe, but I'll run with it and I'll talk about it. Lego apparently can be anti-LGBT, says the Science Museum. Now, it says a self-guided museum tour, which I'll show you in a moment. This directly from their own website. Self-guided museum tour of stories of queer communities, experiences and identities. Includes a display of Lego bricks alongside a guide stating that plastic blocks may reinforce the idea that heterosexuality is the norm. So I thought I have to take a look for this, and sure enough, on the Science Museum website itself, under Stop 7, now I've got nothing against this tour and looking at things and how they've developed through history and all of this sort of stuff, but I do take issue with the way that this is described here. It says, like other connectors and fasteners, Lego bricks are often described in a gendered way. The top of the brick with sticking out pin is male, the bottom of the brick with holes to receive the pins is female, and the process of putting the two sides being together is called mating. Now, if you've ever done any kind of DIY, or if you're a builder, or even if you're not any of those things, you're probably aware that you get connectors. There's the one that we call the male one, which has got a sticky out thing, and there's the one that we call the female, which the sticky out thing goes into. And for obvious reasons, they've been described as male and female. No one ever really before has said that that is anti-anything. It's just a description, because one goes in and you get the idea. So to describe Lego bricks in this way, I think is a bit odd to begin with. Certainly describing them as mating, I find particularly odd. But then, I mean, that itself is not even the unusual bit, because that is what it is. If you look at anything around you, any kind of connector, I can reach out and connect, find some plug thing here. This would be the male end, and the other bit would be the female end, because this, you get the idea. But it's the next bit that I take issue with here. It says, this is an example of applying heteronormative language to topics unrelated to gender, sex and reproduction. It illustrates how heteronormativity, the idea that heterosexuality and the male-female gender binary are the norm and everything that falls outside is unusual, shapes the way we speak about science, technology and the world in general. And my response to that has to be, well, yes, because that's just the way we've described things. Nothing more. This is not anti-anything. I couldn't find a reference on this page here that said it was anti-anything, but it's reported in the Telegraph that, according to the Science Museum, they say that Lego can be anti-LGBT. And frankly, I don't see how that's possible. Fiona McAnana, director of Sex Matters, said that the Science Museum's self-guided trail on all things queer is completely bonkers and includes some absurd claims. She says the idea that Lego is heteronormative because the blocks are described as male and female is ridiculous. Children who play with Lego don't need to be told that some people say fitting Lego blocks together is mating. People expect to be informed, educated and inspired when visiting the Science Museum and not to have dubious claims rooted in gender ideology forced on them. And I broadly agree, save that when in certain language we do talk about things being male and female like connectors and so on, as I've described. That is just a normal way that some people describe certain things. But I do agree that I've never really heard that applied to Lego, and I've never really heard people talking to children in that way about Lego, much less that doing so is heteronormative and is somehow anti-LGBT, which I frankly don't think it is. I don't accept that. And the one thing I do find strange about all of this is that over the years I've built up a bank of friends, some of whom are gay, one or two people I've met are trans, and they see all of this as a little bit ridiculous. They don't seem to think that this kind of language and descriptors, male, female, etc., are anti-anything. In fact, their view generally is, and again, you can correct me in the comments if you wish, and if you are within the group and you would like to leave your comments, I'd be very happy to read those, and I'd be happy to be educated as to what your views are, because generally the views that have been given to me from members of the group have said that this kind of conversation and this kind of criticism of language, male, female, etc., this kind of conversation itself is damaging to the group's reputation, and many of them don't like this kind of discussion. So I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts, because until I read this article, I had no idea that anyone would ever think of it like that, and certainly I wouldn't be encouraging talking to children about it in this way, because ironically I think it would stir up division between groups just by having that conversation. Again, but that's just my view. But nonetheless, the FOI revealed that West Yorkshire Police alone spends over £1 million on these roles, which ironically I think may be doing more damage. That's just my personal view. I'm happy to be proven wrong with hard evidence and facts and data, but in my personal view, I think it actually might be doing more damage than good. And when we see the amount of money that is spent just in one area, and then we look at Elon Musk's Doge Department of Government Efficiency, posted earlier today, said 78 contracts were terminated for convenience across DEI, non-performing media and consulting categories, including one for groundwater exploration and assessment in the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Approximately $110 million of total savings. So I can only guess how much we would save here. Let me know what you think in the comments. Very open to discussion on this one. No hate intended, no offense intended to anybody, of course. Just open discussion with open opinions, and I'd welcome yours in the comment section below. So let me know what you think. Please do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.